I looked at, just the looks of these communities, and they're decimated. I mean, these look like little shanty ghost towns, and it's devastating. And yet these people seem fundamentally stuck there. Like, that's what when I see places like, not just Appalachia, but that's definitely one of those places. There's people are literally stuck there. There's nowhere else to go. They don't know anything else. This is all they know. And so how are they, in terms of when we talk about things like transitioning from fossil fuels and transitioning to green energy, how is that received in these communities? Like, where are they at in terms of like any sort of Green New Deal,
Well, this is kind of something that I spoke with a few miners about, former miners, and it's also a pet peeve of mine because I grew up in the South as well. And it was really irritating because what he said is that, environmentalists think that we don't talk about the environment because we don't know anything about it, right? We're just some dumb hillbillies who don't know any better. But that's not true. And the fact of the matter is that you can't tell somebody that they're evil for being a coal miner and not offer them another option and then just leave. And then basically one of the things that Terry, who's in the film, told me, who's a former miner, he's like, do you want to make an environmentalist? I'll tell you how to make an environmentalist. You put 500 coal miners to work in a renewable plant. That's how you make an environment. And then he said, in 5 years, they'd kick I don't know if I can curse, but
you can curse. I'm not monetized.
They kick the shit out of a coal miner if you even mention coal.
Right.
But you can't just tell somebody this is wrong. You should rather starve to death and watch your family become homeless than work at a coal mine, because the options for these folks are work in coal or work at Walmart, and that's not really much of a choice when you look at the economics of those situations. And the same thing with fracking. Work in fracking or work at Walmart, or become addicted to opioids. Like, what are the choices for these people here? The economic decisions are being made for them. And
it seems like we need to be focusing our strategies, our Green New Deal strategies, specifically in these communities. Like these communities should be the ground zero for employing people in these new types of jobs that are cleaner energy jobs. I mean, this is where we need to start for people. But you're saying that you believe they would welcome those opportunities.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to speak for them, but the folks that I spoke to would be glad to see that transition. And of course, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, there is a deep cultural connection to coal, but that is something that wasn't always the case. It's like the Ursula K. Le Guin quote, like, capitalism seems insurmountable, but so did the divine right of kings. Like, we think of these things as if they are always going to be there, but of course they're not. And so the idea that someone is very tied to the coal industry because it feels like part of their culture, well, that can change in a generation, and you just have to give them those options. If you then say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any more coal jobs, but we've got jobs planting trees. Okay. Like, yeah. if those are the choices that you hand to people, then and if you engage them in these decision-making schemes and make it clear that this is about the health of their community and the health of their family. And I think this is the bigger issue as well, is that it shouldn't just be this top-down issue like, here, have a job. It should be, what do you want for your community? What is it that you need? And this is why we've seen so many people, for instance, in West Virginia that really liked Bernie, but then voted for Trump. Because Bernie was speaking their language. He was like, oh, you want healthcare. Oh, you want a livable wage. Like, when you listen to people, really what they're asking for is the same stuff for the most part across the board. Sure, you have some people on the fringes that are like, no, I'd love to get black lung and diet 40, but that's not the majority, right? So right. I think, actually organizing with folks, which is, what folks in West Virginia are doing, and saying like, hey, this is what we need, this is what we demand, and this is what we're going to try to build.
I've always thought of that region as someplace, and someone who has been there, and I haven't been to West Virginia, but I've been through the Appalachian Mountains, and people don't understand, it is an extremely isolated life. It's not like you think like, oh, you just go somewhere else. It's extremely remote in a lot of these places, and it's very isolated. And there's people that even in your movie, that probably never really left the state of West Virginia in their lives, like this is what they know. And I think that it's very easy for corporations to take advantage very specifically of communities like that. And I, you know, it's just devastating. And I've seen this for years, and it's always been very upsetting to me. And, you know, I just feel like there's got to be a better way. And these people, in many cases, and I've read other things based in there, they just feel forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if that's something you encountered when you were there.
Well, I think this ties into the conversation about the opioid epidemic. West Virginia ranks first in the entire country when it comes to the opioid epidemic. And if you look at the main causes of addiction, they are isolation, not just physical, but mental and emotional, and trauma, whether that be physical or emotional, which when you have a place like West Virginia that's incredibly isolated, but also the jobs that are available are physically taxing, are physically demanding. You have a perfect intersection for, you know, between capitalism and you know, kind of like a built-in destruction thanks to the industries that are there. You have a perfect intersection for something like opioids to take hold. And I think that, you know, people feel very forgotten, and they feel, as Paul pointed out, they feel hungry for more than just for more than just change, for more than just food. And I think that this is something that is absolutely kind of like another point that's in the film, is that, well, we talk about West Virginia like it's a throwaway, but if we're going to throw away every state that's been destroyed by corporate malfeasance, what state would you have left? Yeah. What people would you have left?
Yeah. And these are, it's like, these are the people that form our country. These families, especially people that go back generations there, this is really like the backbone of what formed our country. And I don't think that it gets anywhere near enough appreciation and respect. And it is pretty much a forgotten about place. And it's just devastating. And so what is the best solution at this point? Like, what would be the next best step going forward to sort of help get them out of where they are? I'm talking about specifically from a policy perspective.
Well, I mean, in terms of policy, that's kind of not my sphere. I'm much more of a grassroots, damn the politician type of person.
I was just looking for you to give me an easy answer as to what I should be promoting. That's all. I was just looking for you to give me the easy answer, and then I would just put it in a box and promote that. Say, we need to do this.
I would say promote the grassroots organizations, because unfortunately politicians and the structure of the system that we have in this nation are always going to be out of touch. And they by default can't listen to the people, because 75% of a politician's time, and I know this from working in DC, 75% of their time is spent on fundraising. You can't possibly expect to understand what people need when 25% of your time is actually saved for that, when in reality that 25% is spent in talking to Wall Street anyway. So I think that where people should be looking is grassroots organizations. You know, this is the only way that we've ever gained anything in this country, is because people are organizing on the ground. The only reasons politicians have ever made decisions that we agree with is because they've been pushed to do so by the people. So I'd say the answer lies in the people themselves. And so, you know, the folks that are in the film that are organizing around these issues, that are fighting to build something better, that's where we should focus our attention.